Hello once again from Deccan Dialogues. This is an interdisciplinary platform that offers a space to public intellectuals from across the country and from across the globe to critically analyze issues that face our nation. Through these dialogues, we wish to bring to our audiences a calm, informed, and nuanced analysis of various issues concerning us. We have today with us two prominent public intellectuals and economists, Parakala Prabhakar and Mohan Guruswamy. In a few days from now, India will be celebrating 75 years of independence with what is being called Azadi Ka Amritmahotsav. 75 years of independence is perhaps the right time to take stock of where the country stands with regard to equitable development. What are the ways in which such unequal development is likely to impact the country? Over to Mohan Guruswamy and Parakala Prabhakar.
Prabhakar, think of the year of 1947 on August 15th. The country we got was very different. It consisted of princely states, big and small, some as big as the colonial power itself and bigger. We had presidency, directly ruled states, British administrators, ICS, and today we are a completely differently structured country. But the basic linguistic, cultural differences between the regions still continue. So we become linguistic states, therefore cultural states, now with increasingly with separate histories as we discover our histories. So we're bound to be unequal. Even those days the regions were unequal. Princely states were more exploited theoretically than the presidency states. But today, after 75 years of this new experiment of India, of a nation of equals, of equal citizens, similar governments, we find that disparities have grown. What is the implication of this growing disparity for the union of states? We are supposed to be a union of states, not a unitary state.
That's right.
So, in broad unions, people with varied stages of economic development can function. You see it in the United States, you see it in Europe, you see it in any large federation, that you have regions which are different. But India is not really a federation. The tug has been for the last 30, 40 years to pull it towards a centralized state. Now we become even more centralized than ever before. Now what is the implications of this for the regions? Some regions are going to feel left behind, and rightly so. Places like Bihar haven't moved. Bihar in 52, after the Appleby report, was judged as the state with the best administration.
True.
And where is Bihar today? It's still at the bottom. Regions like Tamil Nadu, Andhra, and all were doing well. They've even done even better. So has Punjab. Punjab got a lot of benefits from the new government, water and all that. So we've got disparate investments also. But what is going to happen to us? How long can this go? When we are talking of a unified nation, one flag, one nationality, one language, maybe one religion. What does all this mean to the 4 southern states, for instance? Together they account for a substantial part of the GDP and a smaller, decreasing size of the population, less than a third now.
Yes.
So how long will this pull before fissures start appearing?
You have raised very important questions, Mohan, and I think this is the right time for us to ask certain very searching questions about our republic. In a few days' time, we are going to start off the Azadi Ka Amritmahotsav. We all celebrate that. It's a great achievement. Except for a few months in between 75 and 77, we have kept our democracy alive, and we stayed liberal, for most of the our journey, except during the past few years, 6, 7 to 8 years time. we celebrate this, but let us not bring it down to just kind of a, flag waving kind of a patriotism, nationalism, celebrations, marking a few events, having some kind of cultural events, etc. But I think what would really be very profitable is to ask these questions, and for an year we have to search for answers. I'll throw up certain questions in addition to what you have mentioned. Are we more free than what we were in 1947? Are we more healthy than what we were in 1947? Are we more prosperous than what we were in 1947? Are we more educated than what we were in 1947? Are we more employed, or are we more employable than what we were in 1947? What are our human development indices in comparison to what they were in 1947? These are certain questions that come to my mind. But then I would look at them in two different perspectives. One is the temporal perspective, that is what we were in 1947 and where we are today, comparing ourselves with what we were 75 years ago. The other one is the spatial. What we are today, what we were in 1947, what are the other countries, where were they in 1947 and where are they today? For instance, China, Singapore, Korea, not to speak about United States and European Union and those countries. So when you look at these, if you look at what we were in 1947 and what we are today, we might find, look, we have achieved a lot of progress. Our literacy levels, our per capita income, our gross domestic product, and our health, our longevity, most of the infrastructure, most of the human development indices have really registered substantial and impressive progress. But when we compare ourselves to the other countries, it could be Asian tigers, it could be China, it could be other countries, then we find that we have not really realized our potential. This is just to put the entire thing in an overall context, but then coming back to what you have raised initially, what is our republic today? It was conceived of as a union of states. Are we really a union of states today? Now, I do not want anyone to mistake you and me. I think I can speak for you as well as for me on this particular thing. We want a strong India. We want a strong center, but a strong center not at the expense of the states, not at the cost of enfeebling the states. It's not that we have 29 weak states and you have a strong center growing at the expense of states, taking away the powers of the states, financial powers, political powers. For instance, you can see the political trend. You have the center has in a day, with hardly any debate, has completely knocked a state out of the map of our republic. J&K is no more a state. I'm not saying whether it is right or wrong. I'm not going into that.
No, true.
But then the fact that it has occurred without much of a debate is one. The secondly, various parties, various governments, not just the present government, have been riding roughshod over the states, increasingly so, in the last 7 to 8 years. This is the political thing. You can see that in Karnataka. You have seen that in Maharashtra, in Goa, in Madhya Pradesh. These states. But then, if you look at the financial aspect of it, I think we should spend some time on dwelling on this particular thing. Especially, generally the central government today has about 65% of the tax revenue is raised by the center, but it is the states which incur about 65% of the administrative costs, administering the country, delivering these programs, etc., etc. But their capacity to raise resources and to raise taxes is very limited to about, say, 30%. So the state has to depend on the center, its munificence, its generosity. Now, when you look at that, that is where the center is squeezing the states, all the states. When all the states are being squeezed on the one hand, but as you said, if you look at the southern states are squeezed much more than any other states. For instance, the kind of loss that the southern states have incurred as a result of the 15th Finance Commission, except Tamil Nadu, all the other southern states, the four southern states, have lost their revenues very, very substantially. This is one thing that is happening. And the other thing that is happening is that, the states are now in a position to plead, give us our GST dues, give us our, devolution which we are entitled to as revenue deficits, centrally sponsored schemes, and then the divisible pool, you give us more. I'll come to that in a while. I'll give you some data also on that. So, on these counts, the southern states are in a real big squeeze. And recently the statement that is placed by the Kerala Finance Minister in the State Assembly had very clearly showed how the center is really manipulating the states.
Absolutely. They have taken away 30,000 crores
Yes.
in this year's budget.
Yes.
So how is the state going to fend for itself? It's got all kinds of problems.
Yes.
Of course, it's India's most developed state, high per capita incomes, but that is because of remittances which come from abroad. State has done well, but you're penalizing it. Similar stories can be told about Tamil Nadu, told about Telangana, told about Andhra. So, the 5 states together are now under a different squeeze also. Politically, we might have less MPs because of delimitation, which this government is intent on carrying out with the new population, the new census. We stopped at 71, but if you get on to the 2011 census, you get a different set of. So, what you are doing is, you're talking of a strong center, but I'm more worried about a more representative center. Should respect all our aspirations, not the aspirations of the regions which put them there. So, that is my big concern.
This kind of a move that you're talking about, the 2011 census, this move had started in a very pronounced way in the 15th Finance Commission.
Yep.
Instead of taking the 1971 census, which was agreed upon, by which the southern states or the states that have strictly followed the family planning and population control policies, and so that they are not penalized, both financially as well as politically. But the first step under the 15th Finance Commission to take not 1971 census as the base, but 2011 census as the base, has really threatened. And you very well understand the vertical devolution from the center to the states also depends upon the size of the population. Once the size of the population is not 1971 but 2011, now I'll give you some data which tells us how much they have really lost. For instance, Andhra Pradesh, under the 14th Finance Commission, the share of the 42% which was to be devolved vertically from the center to the state, under 14th Finance Commission, Andhra Pradesh got 1.81. In the present 15th Finance Commission, it is going to get 1.69. Karnataka 1.98 it got, now it is going to get 1.49. Kerala, it got 1.05 under 14th, now it is going to get 0.8. Tamil Nadu, it got 1.69 in the 14th, now it is going to go slightly marginally. Instead of 1.69, it is going to get 1.72. Telangana, it got 1.02 under the 14th Finance Commission, it is going to get 0.87. So, it is a huge loss for all the 4 southern states except Tamil Nadu. And if you look at the divisible pool, in the divisible pool, the Andhra Pradesh got 4.31 under the 14th Finance Commission, now it is going to get 4.11. Instead of 4.31, it is going to get 4.11. Karnataka, instead of 4.71, which got in 14, is going to get 3.65. Kerala, it got 2.5 earlier under 14th Finance Commission, it is going to get 1.94, sorry. And Tamil Nadu got 4.02 under 14th Finance Commission, it is going to get 4.19. Telangana 2.43 under the 14th Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission, it is going to get 2.13. So massive.
You know, the chairman of the 15th Commission, Finance Commission, somebody I worked with before in government together, we were colleagues. And there are certain attitudinal issues which come to the fore. Comes from a particular state which he also believes has been victimized. And many of us believe that it didn't do well because it didn't get enough. But the way to sort that out is not to penalize others, but to do something. That's why the central government was asked to give a special status for that particular state because of the historical baggage. Instead of giving them that package, which the Prime Minister talked about several times, he used to go around to Bihar and say, I'm giving you 100,000 crores, I'm giving you, huge numbers, but not a pie arrived.
It was some kind of an auction actually.
Absolutely.
You know, you want 50,000, you want 70,000, you want 1 lakh.
And he offered 70,000 crores in Jammu Kashmir. So, you know, he did all that, but didn't give anything. But now what they are doing is they're taking from other states, states which have done well, who are actually at a different demographic curve. We will need more money now. As we come to zero population growth the next 3 or 4 years, we will need more money to support an elderly growing and aging population. You will need more medical care. You will need all these things, and you will need more productivity in labor. So all this, we need more money. At that time, when you are on your way down, you're getting hit. And what does it mean to a union of states, a union of equals, a union of several nationalities? How are you going to? So, you know, this difference in performance comes out of good government, historical reasons for it. But, you know, take the South. The South had only 1 presidency and 3 princely states.
Yes.
Yet it did well. And the North had a huge presidency. Bengal to Delhi was presidency, and Punjab didn't do well. Why?
Yeah.
So, issues of government, reorganizing of public administration, all need to be discussed. But these things are never discussed. Instead, you say we will hit you in the pocketbook. If you take away 30,000 crores from Kerala in 1 year, a small state, you're actually making a huge hole in it. I don't know the equivalent numbers for Telangana and for Tamil Nadu, but I'm sure they're pretty big, even for Andhra.
Oh, it's going to be big. I think it's going to range anywhere between, if you take for each individual states from the southern region, I think it's going to take away anywhere between 20,000 crores to 25,000, 30,000 crores.
And the argument, the Revadi argument which the Prime Minister made, that these people are distributing sweets to the public to get votes, and that is irresponsible government. Now, direct transfer of benefits is something which economists all over the world are now agreed.
Yes.
That you must do. If people have nothing, you got to give something. America does it now.
You know, all these elements which the Prime Minister is talking today, which the GST Council or the Government of India, Ministry of Finance is doing, all these elements are found in the 15th Finance Commission. even the terms of reference are so loaded against the states, so loaded against the southern states, so loaded against those states which are economically performing much better. Because you see, at that time, the Karnataka Chief Minister, then Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah said, you know, for every rupee that Karnataka pays to the central pool in terms of taxes, it's getting
60 paisa.
49 paisa.
49 paisa, yes.
49 paisa. And for every rupee that Uttar Pradesh is paying, it was getting 1 rupee 79 paisa.
Yes, but then you should show me results. If you've done that, if you're doing that in Bihar, show us results. Matter of fact, you don't get results at all. This and it's getting worse. And are you going to pull us down with you? This is again the question which arises in the south. Many young people I talk to, they ask us, are we going to get more jobs in the army? Are we going to get more jobs in the military, in the government? All this is getting loaded against you. So we need to have a serious articulation, but what is this union? How is it organized? How you talk about good governance and better government. Both go hand in together, and you got to reorganize. When things are not working well, you got to reorganize. And you can't have, again, another question. You have smaller states all around you, and 2 big states accommodating 25% of India. And that is also not good. It skews the balance. The union has to be balanced. You can't have somebody who's 25% the population and 25% of government, loading things in one direction. So I think we need to, on this anniversary, we need to talk about these issues. What kind of an India are we going to be? Are we going to be what the Mughals ran, a centralized regime, or what the British ran, a highly centralized regime? Or are we going to be
more democratic?
More democratic.
What the Prime Minister those days, when he really actually took over, was a fresh Prime Minister who talked about cooperative federalism, Team India. The Prime Minister and all the Chief Ministers are, together as a team. But, over the years, from 2014 onwards, if you look at it, that is getting watered down.
There is a certain frustration which comes in the center of government, the inability to do things because of your own structural failings or your own intellectual preparedness. And then you start flaying out that people don't cooperate, people are doing this. You create internal enemies. Now, look at how adversarial we've all become. MPs don't talk to each other. Parliament doesn't discuss. There are raids on political parties. Is this the way to run a federal system, a union?
Chief Ministers don't receive the Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
In the past, there were Chief Ministers and Prime Ministers belonging to different political parties, but the constitutional relationship between a state and the center, the state functionaries and the central functionaries, were cordial. There could be very deep political fissures, deep political differences, but this kind of a animosity, this kind of a rancor, we didn't find that.
And over the years, we have seen how governors have become troublemakers in states. Instead of holding their office with dignity, they get involved in small politics, local politics, and needle the governments of the day in the states. That also is something which we should be concerned about. The governor actually represents the state more than he represents the center here. He is not the center's plenipotentiary here. He is actually somewhere in between constitutionally.
That's right. And Mohan, that brings me to this question. I want to ask you this question. Politically and financially, the present ruling party, does it have a cohesive idea of India, which is not very far away off the mark from the founding fathers of our republic? What kind of an India, what kind of center-state relations, what kind of a republic, and is it going to be a unitary one? Is it going to be a federal one?
That's what I worry about. I think the present dispensation has a very clear notion of what it wants India to be. And that is what worries me. It's not an expansive, wide notion of what India should be, a nation of many nationalities, a nation of many cultures, a multinational nation, so to say. But if you start seeing India as a monocultural, majoritarian state, then you're running into a problem. This is what I worry about. I think Prime Minister is very clear and his cohorts are very clear. They want a majoritarian state. They want a Hinduized India. They want one language.
So Hindu, Hindi,
and Hindutva,
BJP, all this is going to be the political project, which is increasingly alienating, especially the southern states. The language question and the question about center controlling the finances of the states, and the question of imposing their political ideology, the hijab controversy and things like that.
True, if you have 18% of your population are Muslims, you can't afford to have such controversies. You got to have inclusive politics, inclusive policies to say that you can wear your hijab, you can wear your turban, and still be one of us.
Yeah.
And we're all together. But you can't use that as flags of differentiation. This is not France. And these people who wear hijabs today or wear fezzes, they're not conquerors who came here. They're not even migrants, they're our own people. France, of course, can say that they are migrants.
So we have come to a stage where your patriotism, your nationalism are measured, whether you sing Vande Mataram or not, whether you stand up for a certain song or not, whether you wear or do not wear a hijab or a particular religious mark, whether you pray outside or inside. This narrative is also causing, in addition to the financial and fiscal kind of policies that we see.
History has shown us that jingoism always foments hatreds, and jingoism, which masquerades as patriotism, is at the cost of other minorities, people who are different. And if you put all the other minorities together, they become a majority. You can't afford to do this. It's very difficult to manage a country even with 95% of the, like in China, 99% are Hans, but they still have problems. Regions are asking for differentiation. India has got a much bigger set of majorities. India can't afford it at all. And historically, let's be very clear, this India, this political India, administrative India, is a new one. Even Aurangzeb didn't go this far south.
That's right.
Tamil Khan was never with him. He sat at the gates of Golconda for 14 years. Ashoka didn't come this far. Akbar didn't come this far. The British were the guys who went from Bamiyan to Rangoon.
Yes.
They set up the monolith. And they also administered it very differently. It was loosely administered. They wanted control at all times. They wanted enough money, wealth, which they extracted amply. $45 trillion went out in the last 100 years. But where is the money going from here? The question is, if it doesn't go abroad, which region gets it?
And whose pockets is it?
And similar question arises. Whose pocket does it go to? How is it that you have a Gini coefficient of 6.8? How is it that you have these silos of people with great wealth, and 73% of the growth in the last 10 years goes to 1% of the population? So these are questions we need to affect the union.
And you see, on the one hand, you have the states being squeezed, as the Kerala Finance Minister has pointed out in his statement. On the other hand, you have about 8 lakh crore corporate debt written off. This is something which is alarming.
Absolutely. It's not alarming, it's daylight robbery.
Yeah.
You're writing off debts. You're not saying that you restructure not one of these debtors has been restructured. Maybe one. But Not one has been taken down and said, okay, you need a new management in your company, in your group, and repay this money, or you extinguish his assets and give it back to the banks. Nothing has been done. Matter of fact, you've written off debts, clean write-offs, and then you say you balance, you adjust the bank's books by increasing its capitalization without actually giving it cash, by giving it bonds, saying that we'll give you money when you need. So, but improve your balance sheet. So the balance sheet starts looking better, but in reality it's not better, because the banks don't have money to give. And then you're writing off debts all the time. But if you write off debts to 1 lakh crores to farmers, and you make a big hue and cry of it, what about 8.5 lakh crores here?
That's right.
You've written off. So whose money is being written off? Government is not writing off its money. Government is writing off.
And those 8 lakh crores do not fall under the category of populist policies.
Absolutely.
You know, if you give 10,000 rupees to an auto driver, 10,000 rupees to somebody who is below poverty line, that is being called as populist policies.
Now they are wondering if the courts have also spoken about giving freebies. Who gets the biggest freebie in this country? Maybe the Prime Minister should tell us that.
Yes. So, I was looking at the government version or the government spin, which is reflected in all the pink papers and all the mainstream media, as though everything is fine, hunky dory, sub changasi, all is doing well. We are growing well. We are one of the fastest growing economies in the world. But the point is this, Mohan, I feel you can grow very well, which of course is disputable and is debatable. You can grow very well, you can have jobless growth.
As is evident.
It's very evident. And you still have June, July together, we have lost about 8 million jobs in this country. And we have not recovered the urban employment. Rural unemployment is fluctuating because of the monsoon, vagaries of the monsoon, etc. Leave that aside for a while. The labor force, labor participation ratio is still not at a desirable level. But the government's defense, what I found, it's more of an evidence of lack of self-confidence. I'll tell you why. Because even after so many years, after 8 years, it is still talking about, the government still talks about what has been in 2010, what has been in there in 2008, etc., etc. It is not able to confidently stand up and say, look, these are our achievements. This is the number of jobs that we have created. This is the number of industry that we have newly brought in. This is the growth in our exports. This is the kind of strength that we have infused into the rupee. These things are not talked about, which brings me to say that somewhere the government suffers from an imposter syndrome. They're just not able to tell us what their cohesive economic policy is, what their cohesive policy on the shape of our republic, the political map of India, what is the ideal relationship between the center and the states in their own mind.
Yesterday I was on a show where my opposite side kept saying about economic growth. I said that is the problem. Since 2000, we've been only looking at economic growth when we should be talking about prosperity. Prosperity has a different set of indices. You can get growth by enriching 1 or 2% of the people.
But even that growth, Mohan,
is questioned.
Year on year, if you look at it, if you say that you're going to grow 7.3% over last year, but last year itself
you went down 9%.
You went down 9%, and with that kind of a low base, if you say that you're growing at 7.3%, it is still not matching up to the pre-pandemic level.
You see, it's like a man clutching a tube in a fast flowing river. The tube will take you bouncing along for a while.
Yeah.
at some stage, either you get tired or the tube gives way. We're running down a river of no return if we continue like this.
So, I feel, this 1 year starting from today, or starting from 15th of August, the entire country should debate on where are we, why are we here, why did we not reach the kind of potential that we would have reached and other countries have reached, where did we go wrong and how do we fix this, what is the political costs of the kind of path that we have tread so far. Of course, we have it also paid a lot of dividends, what these dividends are, and keeping those dividends intact, how do we go forward, improving the lot of our population, improving the political culture, making the country more democratic, more free, better infrastructure, better civic services, better governance. Is our parliament more democratic than what it was in 1947? Anybody can see that. It's not. So, how do we make those structures?
It calls for an attitudinal change, which I am now increasingly of the belief is not possible in the present dispensation. So, either we wait for a new dispensation or you expect a hard change within the cabal which does all these things and gets a sudden broad. After all, the same party had a different vision.
Exactly.
In 1996, in 2000, and the language was different. It spoke of a more benign and more conservative India. That has changed. Now we become a radical India. So I think, one will just have to wait and see. I don't hold out any magic wands here.
But discuss we must.
We must. Discussion is democracy.
Yes.
And that is not happening.